Hello there. So today I seen The End of Oak Street, which is a new film from producer J.J. Abrams. It stars Anne Hathaway and Ewan McGregor. Um, this will be a non-spoiler review, so I won't go into anything specific that's not been in the marketing. So if by any chance you've not heard anything about this, I want to. I'll give you fair warning. I'll talk about stuff that's in the trailer. So I think it's pretty common knowledge to anyone who's heard of it. But just in case, I'll just give you fair warning on that. There'll be no spoilers for the actual film here, just general opinion on the film. So, of course, as you know by the trailers, the Anne Hathaway and Ewan McGregor, they have their family. They're in this American suburb, and they find out one day is house, their street has been moved to prehistoric times, and there's dinosaurs running amok in their street. So that's the basic plot with that there. So what right out the gate, what I'm going to say is this movie is so fucking dumb and so fucking goofy in parts. But I still had fun with it. Not gonna lie, I enjoyed it. This is one of those. At least it wasn't boring. I've always said this before. If it's dumb and it's goofy, but I'm entertained by it, I'll allow it. If it's dumb and goofy and boring, that's the cardinal sin. But this was fun. And for the most part, now the first 25 minutes or so are a bit shaky. I would say that. I'm like, and it's got to be the whole. Well, you got to meet the family and establish the characters. Yeah, okay. It's not that it's bad. There's a couple of scenes that are a bit whatever, but it's not particularly that interesting. And of course, you've got to do that, but the better films can do it in a lot more interesting way. For example, the obvious example here is going to be Jurassic Park. The first hour, very rarely, you don't really, there's not really a ton of that. You've got the action scene at the start, of course, with the raptor in the cage and things, with the raptor getting loaded and that. But then you see dinosaurs, but there's not really proper action until like the second half's a full action packed hour. The second half's fully action packed, but it's never boring. It's engaging. The characters are great. Alan Grant, and rest in peace to the great Sam Neill as well. Ellie Sattler, great. Jeff Goldblum is Ian Malcolm and things like that. These are engaging characters. These characters aren't bad or anything like that. They're just not particularly engaging. I think Anne Hathaway gives a really good performance as always. Ewan McGregor's fine. Yeah. So, you've got your asshole neighbour as well who threatens to shoot the dog and things like that. So, none of these they're all fine, but they're not especially engaging. So you kind of think, well, hopefully this picks up when the dinosaurs come here. And it does. And what you come for the dinosaurs, let's be honest. And they're fun, There's some really good sequences here. Visually, they look good and everything like that. I like the way they actually go down the route of making them look like feathery, like this paleontologists that have said, historians and things have said that that's what dinosaurs would actually look like, all covered in feathers and things like that. So, that's a nice attention to detail, sets it apart from the Jurassic Park dinosaurs and things like that. Another one I was going to shout out about how you set things up. And this might be a massively unpopular opinion, but the first hour of Peter Jackson's King Kong, I love it. Some people complain about it. I think it's great. I think the characters are great. I'm always entertained by it. I'm amazed at how well that always holds up when I watch that film. When I do rewatches of it, it still holds up to this day. So, well, last time I watched it was a few years ago, like, granted, but, maybe I could watch it, I could put it on there now and say, actually, no, that's boring as fuck. But, it's always held up since every time I've rewatched it. So, just a little shout out. Shout out to Peter Jackson's King Kong, my favourite ever remake. Anyway, back to this. So, right, this film entertained me, right? I'll be honest, I will say this. I am baffled by how some of the good reviews I'm seeing for it from like professional critics, like some people who would shit on the Jurassic World films, but are giving this a pass. And then I'm like, do you really think it's that much better than Jurassic World? I mean, okay. I mean, I like the Jurassic World films personally, but I don't really see why. And this reminds me a bit of that Transformers: Rise of the Beasts. A lot of people who hated the Michael Bay films gave that a pass, even though it's essentially the same fucking film. But the one thing this actually does is that Jurassic World kind of promised but didn't deliver on was having dinosaurs out in the open as such and in with humanity and in. So that was one thing that would seem to be promised from the end of Fallen Kingdom, but never happened in Dominion. But whatever, still like Jurassic World Dominion, don't get me wrong. But so this was kind of cool. That made it a bit different. I liked seeing that element of it. But I am baffled because this film is fucking stupid. Let's be honest. There's got professional critics who are just like, "Yeah, this is really good, actually. Yeah, it's the best dinosaur films in Jurassic Park." And I'm like, "Okay, well, I mean, critics they do sometimes baffle me. I'm not gonna lie, but I was entertained by this film. Don't get me wrong, but I'm not. I'm the one who's saying, yeah, it's kind of stupid, but yeah, I'm entertained by it. Whatever, deal with it. I'm not pretending to be a professional critic, but but yeah. So right, there's another thing, right? The dog in the film, right? Lovely dog, love dogs and everything like that. But Starbuck, its name is right. Yeah, okay. That's kind of yeah. So you wonder if there's maybe been some sort of sponsorship deal or something like that put in with this, because now to be fair, they'll turn around and say, "Well, it's actually called Starbuck, not Starbucks." But well, okay, whatever. But the thing that gets me even more suspicious about this is they say the dog's name, barking constantly, and almost to comical levels, and it's starting to think that. Maybe they get paid a fee or something like that every time the dog is named. I don't know. Call me cynical, but I just find that kind of funny. But and there was one moment with the dog, which is kind of funny, but it's kind of cool. It's kind of cool, but it's funny. I don't know if it's actually meant to be funny. It's kind of unintentionally funny, and there are moments in this film that I actually think are a little bit unintentionally funny, which to be fair, didn't bother me because I was entertained. I wasn't bored. So, this film is goofy as fuck. But there's fun to be had with it. Uh, you know, and I mentioned it was like J.J. Abrams who produced it. And this is like nowhere near as good as, say, Super 8, which I think is a very underrated film. I think that film is really well done. Funny enough, I've just mentioned two Kyle Chandler films here in the space of this review that are completely unrelated to this. In many ways, Super 8 and King Kong, of course. Lantern starts, well, tonight in America and tomorrow in the UK. So there you go. Shout out to Kyle Chandler. He's awesome. So anyway, that's just my thoughts on that one. So yeah, but there are moments where I'm just laughing at it, but there's genuine surprises here, to be fair. There was one moment I was genuinely shocked by. I was like, oh, they went there. So, that was interesting. And I actually do think especially towards the end, a lot of the action gets a lot more intense, and there's some really effective moments here, especially one with a big snake dinosaur thing in it. I don't know if it's meant to be a dinosaur, but it's like a big snake, and that actually was really effective. So yeah, I've got my doubts about it. Like it's no fucking the world classic, out of this world classic or anything like that. But you know what? In the August dumping ground, once that's came at the film that's come out here, once everyone's going to see Spider Man and the Odyssey, you know what? As an actual different film out there, it could be a lot worse. It could be a lot worse. Yeah, thumbs up for a very silly but ultimately enjoyable film. Anyway, thanks for taking the time to listen, and goodbye.